how do we have these discussions that are now occurring between an alder and a committee chair in a public setting? Or an alder and the mayor behind closed doors in a public setting? How can we have a deliberative setting where the public has greater opportunity for more input? Also things like, if you, all the alders will remember, the mayor and I had sent out a joint email early in the spring or mid-spring about public works projects in each of your districts, if you had any. And the idea was at some point we'd prioritize those, and kind of got slipped through the cracks for whatever reason. But that list could have been, this the type of committee where that list could have been really looked at and discussed and even prioritized. And again, it doesn't circumvent our current system. It's not intended to do that. It's really intended to be a publicly posted meeting where that kick and tires idea is shared with the public and helps us sort of formulate ideas. Sets a legislative agenda. What are the things we want to work on in the session?
I think what we're trying to achieve here is unclear to me. I want to make sure that all of the alders are involved in our strategic plan. I want to make sure all of the community representatives that we bring in have the opportunity to be involved in that strategic plan. I want citizens, I want UWSP, I want the school district to be involved in our strategic plan. I don't want 5 or 6 people talking about what we as a community want. It's our community. It seems like a small group is trying to garner support and guide what the larger group is doing. The democratic process here allows each voice in that larger group to have their say.
I'm particularly concerned about the fact that it appears to create another layer. And also it appears to be creating an elite group. This would be a group that could do all the things first and maybe pass them on and maybe not. I'm not in favor.
This proposal would be, in my mind, less elite because the members of the committee are elected by the council. So
I certainly think we need something. It took me months to get something on an agenda. If I was guaranteed, if I wanted to have something come up, it would be on the agenda the next month, we probably wouldn't need this. But the committee chair has an awful lot of power here, and the person who appoints the committee chairs has an awful lot of power to control agendas. And if it is not on the agenda, we cannot speak of it. So something like this could, I see as more of a clearinghouse. We get a packet on a Wednesday or a Thursday. We have 2 days. 11 people have 2 days, 3 days, business days, to get everything answered, everything figured out, explained. If we've got an idea coming that's gonna come forward, before it gets put on a formal agenda at one of our formal committees, it's easier to get discussion about concepts, ideas. Where do we want to go from here? How do you put that on an agenda? What's your dream for Stevens Point? Let's put that on a plan commission agenda and see where that goes. But we could do something like that in something like this committee.
Committee chairs are recommended by the mayor, confirmed by council. Yes, you've said that. But apparently you don't act on it, because if you don't like the chairs, that confirmation period is your opportunity to say, no, I don't like this chair. That's the checks and balances of the system we have. Recommendations are made and then considered by council. Not a group of 5 or 6, but the council. That's your choice. If you don't like that chair recommendation, you have the ability to say no. Nobody has ever voted no at any of the reorganizational meetings on any of those recommendations during my administration.
I don't know about the totality of everything that's in there, but that kicking the tires idea I think does speak to something that we've been running into. Because I think there is a valid point, I think there is a valid problem being described here, that things, they go to committees, and when they go to committees, it's for decision, right? And so if they arrive and we haven't kicked those tires and we haven't clarified some things, then it's not in great shape to be decided. We can sort of start to explore some of those, and you know, if I'm correct about the open meetings law, we're allowed to talk about things that, you know, that aren't already on agendas, that aren't already up for decision. But, you know, I think we can all think in recent memory of some of the issues that have come to committee and maybe not been ready.
This committee is gonna be doing the same thing that we've hired people that do this. Michael Ostrowski, he's always on the legislative, anything going on in the state or other cities. Corey knows what's going on. Director Lemke, all those guys out there are paying big bucks for. They're doing that job. Why do we need to do it again? We shouldn't be doing it twice. It's utterly ridiculous.
I'm just gonna basically say I agree with the mayor and Alder Phillips and Alder Dugan. I do strongly feel that this is just another layer of government, and it's not necessary in such a small body as we have here. I've been a chair for quite a few years. I've had people request things on my agenda. I've never denied them. I've maybe put them off to get more information, but I've never denied them. So, again, I'm just gonna echo what the mayor's been saying, and I don't support this. Thanks.
It's very important that we have that ability to talk about stuff, even if it would be still in the public, but it wouldn't get so misconstrued, and then it gets in the news, something that can easily be misunderstood. So having this, we would have less lengthy meetings, I think, if we were able to discuss some of these things together and have that possibility, because like they said, a clearinghouse, you get to see all the other viewpoints before you bring it to this, so that you've already narrowed it down a little bit more, even though the public is still involved, which is great. Then you can go from there and say, okay, let's move forward, we're gonna do a vote, this next part is the vote. And I think it's really important, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I know it adds extra for people, but I don't think it's another layer. I think it's a layer that, like the onion has, it's important to have each of those. And it's protective, and it's important to have, and for people that don't know the whole process, all of us are learning things as we go, and I just think it's really helpful to have those discussions for everybody. So.
I think some of you may still be unclear as to the complete duties that you have. I've been an alderperson for 10 years prior to taking this role, and a county board supervisor, similar to what Alderperson Johnson does. The process is, Mike has an idea. I want to ban widgets. So I come to the appropriate city department head, say, Chief, I'm having a problem with widgets in my neighborhood. I need to ban widgets. And the chief will give me his opinion and say, well, I think this is why we've done it in the past, and this is what we've done, and we vet that through the department head. They may say, you should go talk to community development because they know they're interested in it. You talk to those departments. You want an ordinance change. You talk to the people that are affected by the ordinances, and you vet those. That is your kicking the tires internally. I have met with several of you for just that reason. I want to find out what the reason is. What's your goal when you have these ordinance proposals? And that is part of the reason, the biggest reason, that occasionally I'll have staff there too, to make sure we can get all of your questions answered when you have that proposal, so you can come forward to committee with the best possible proposal that meets your goal. Not necessarily the ordinance that's changed the way you want it, but you give us a problem. We have garbage cans that have garbage spilling over, and we want to fix that. That's a problem. So we would talk to our code enforcement, community development, and talk about a solution. What can we do? That's the kicking the can. And then, or kicking the tires, sorry, too many metaphors. Then you bring it to committee. And the rest of the alderpersons get to weigh in. And they say, yeah, that happens in my district too. And maybe you find a different way of doing it. Or maybe you find a new way of doing it. Or maybe you find that someone has a problem with the way this one's being done, so we bring it back. Like Alderperson's Naples ordinance request that they've been working on for a couple of months. This is the second month we're dealing with it because it was referred back. We have no problem doing that. As far as limiting the discussions, those discussions are still gonna happen because they have to be done publicly. So instead of at the Public Protection Committee meeting, things get a little lengthy, like it's 10 o'clock now, then you would have the Executive Committee. Those discussions still have to happen. If there's gonna be objections to a recommendation or a process or an ordinance, those objections aren't gonna go away because you make another committee. They're still gonna be there. And now those people who are against it, let's say Group A is against whatever the proposal is, they're gonna speak at the Executive Committee, if they're aware of it, because now we've created another committee. Then they're gonna speak at the appropriate subcommittee, and then they're gonna speak at council. So you can't just circumvent the process of public participation or lessen the impact of their input because you create another committee.
The difference between my proposal and what you just said is the tires get kicked in public, not at your desk behind closed doors.
They still get kicked in public. Any idea?
No.
We have public meetings for everything.
You have public meetings, but what you just articulated was that alders come to you and you may bring in staff. Tires get kicked.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said.
No, you're putting words in my mouth.
No,
You go to
said
staff to
go
get
to
those taken
staff,
care
and
of.
then it may come to your office.
And I have asked for several meetings,
You
yes.
have asked for meetings, but that's kicking the tires.
Nobody goes through me for permission.
No, but that seems to be part of the process, and it doesn't necessarily have to be.
That is not part of the process.
What I'm saying is, instead of starting with staff and having 4 or 5 alders go to staff, we have this opportunity where staff can come one time, and certainly the mayor's all, this is a public meeting, and the tires are kicked. And if you want a meeting after that, certainly that seems to make sense. But the difference is this is a transparent process by which, I know we're killing this analogy of tires, but.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. I'll try to think of another analogy. I can't think of one right now because I'm tired and I'm hungry.
Sifting the flour.
There we go. Sifting
the flour.
Sifting and winnowing, getting rid of the chaff and, getting the prime wheat. So that's the difference. It's the process in a transparent fashion for sifting and winnowing the flour.
So I hope that the alderpersons understand what their duties are. If you have an idea that you want to talk about, a marijuana ordinance, you bring it to staff, hash it out there, and we'll get it to committee. So to say that we need a committee to do something that you already have the authority to do is redundant. We talked about the Department of Redundancy Department earlier. This is what I see this as. Every single one of these duties that's listed is currently available to you as an alderperson, whether it be at the committee level or at the county or the council level. All of these things you can do already. So by making another committee to talk about things that your other committees already can do is redundant and adding another layer of government. Again.
I want to applaud President Johnson for working on this for a long time, and also our city attorney. I guess the mayor's defensiveness over this and his prepared statement shows that he's threatened by this. And that's the very reason we need this. Because we have a lateral system. The executive and legislative branches are even. And there is a history in this city, a very long one, of this city not operating that way. And I take exception to many of the claims that you made about anyone at any time can do anything. That is simply not true. And the insistence with which you just made your statement from your seat is similar to other times that I've seen you operate. Most recently, you yelling at business leaders downtown. So I have real problems with that. I have a lot of problems with the authority that is determined from your seat. And I think this is not why this came up, but I see it as a mechanism to balance power between the executive and legislative branches in our city, which is the way it's supposed to be. So again, thank you for your work on